This is the first live-action movie directed by a woman of color that has a budget of over $100 million. And it's one of maybe only a handful of movies where the lead of a sci-fi fantasy movie happens to be a black woman. This is a pretty big deal. And I don't want studios to think that if this movie in particular doesn't do as well as they were expecting it to, or as well as they would like it to, that we shouldn't give these filmmakers and these actors these chances. Because the Lord knows that white guys have been given plenty of chances to make bad movies and have still gotten the budgets to make another one. Now, no spoilers here. I'm not saying if this movie is bad. I'm just saying, if it turns out to be the movie they didn't expect, let's not just write off big budget movies made by women of color. Let's not write off a talented director like Ava DuVernay. Let's not write off Storm Reid. Anyway, as you can probably guess, I'm talking about A Wrinkle in Time.
You were a top student, but look at you now. You can't keep using your father's disappearance as an excuse to act out.
Is that his work? What's it about?
Their dad, he wanted to touch the stars.
Where are we?
We heard a cry out in the universe.
My father's alive.
We believe he is, and we're here to help you find him. We are in search of warriors.
Warriors who serve the good and the light in the universe.
You're kidding.
Do I look like I'm kidding?
A little. I'm not.
A Wrinkle in Time is directed by Ava DuVernay and it stars Oprah Winfrey, Storm Reid, Reese Witherspoon, Mindy Kaling, Levi Miller, Derek McCabe, Chris Pine, and Gugu Mbatha-Raw. And I'm going to start right off the bat by saying I am not a fan of this movie. I know, you probably guessed that from my intro, but it's true. I don't think this movie is particularly good, and I was very, very much so rooting for it. I didn't really like the marketing, if I'm gonna be honest, but I still went and saw it anyway. I'm gonna start this review off by telling you what I liked about A Wrinkle in Time. Now, there isn't much, but it's worth talking about. I think Storm Reid is good in this movie. I really like her. She does some really subtle acting, and she works really well off of Chris Pine, and the father-daughter relationship explored when they're together works really well as well. I think Storm Reid's going to be a very talented actor. I think she's going to have a really long career in Hollywood if she wants to. She's great in this movie. If she has the capability to carry a big budget blockbuster like this, then I'd love to see what she can do in other projects. I was very impressed with Storm Reid. I also think Levi Miller did a good job with the very limited role that he had. A lot better than he was in Pan, which should give you some hope for child actors, knowing that, hey, maybe that one performance they had might not have been that good, but they could have a better future in acting. I also thought Mindy Kaling and Reese Witherspoon were okay. Mindy Kaling also has a very small role, and what she has to do is very limited, but it's different from the things we've seen Mindy Kaling do in the past. She's very much not Kelly Kapoor, and I like seeing a different side of her. And Reese Witherspoon is good as well. She is a little different than what we've seen from Reese Witherspoon in the past, and I enjoyed her in the movie. Now, there are some performances I didn't really like, and that might be a bad segue, because I didn't dislike Oprah's performance. I thought she was decent enough in the movie. I just didn't think she was really doing a performance. I didn't think she was really acting. I think she was Oprah. And Oprah is an incredible actress. I mean, she is able to go to deep lengths to portray characters, and the emotion that Oprah can bring out in the right scene and with the right material is incredible. She is something to marvel when she has the right work to work off of. And this Oprah just kind of felt like she was Oprah. It felt like I could have been watching a Halloween episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show. It sort of just felt like she was dressing up and she looked wonderful and fabulous, but she just was saying a lot of things that I imagine Oprah Winfrey would say, to believe in yourself and to surge past your faults and to accept your faults and things like that. And it just seemed very much like Oprah Winfrey, which is a good thing, but it did take me out of this movie, and frankly, her character just didn't work, and sadly, I think it is to do with the fact that Oprah was playing her, despite how much I like Oprah and I think she's talented. Another individual that I didn't think was necessarily good in the film was Derek McCabe. I don't really like saying bad things about child actors, unless of course it's the anointed one in Buffy. I usually try to give a pass to kid actors because, granted, they're children. I often think that a child's performance relies heavily on the way the director is utilizing a child actor, especially if it's not a particularly strong child actor. And I think Ava DuVernay relies very heavily on Derek McCabe and his character of Charles Wallace. I think Charles Wallace, while others might have found him intriguing and uplifting, I felt Charles Wallace was very annoying. I was very thrown off by Charles Wallace. I felt like Charles Wallace was very much Sheldon Cooper. I didn't like Charles Wallace. I didn't like Derek McCabe as Charles Wallace. There's a lot of close-ups of Charles Wallace. Charles Wallace, Charles Wallace, Charles Wallace.
Charles Wallace, Charles Wallace, Charles Wallace.
Sorry, I just got caught up in saying Charles Wallace because I feel like so did the screenwriter for this movie and every character and all the actors. They say Charles Wallace a lot in this movie, and maybe sometimes just call him Charles or Charlie or you or him. Hey, pronouns exist, guys. But yeah, Derek McCabe, I didn't feel could effectively carry the scenes that he needed to carry in this movie, and by the third act, he needs to carry a lot of scenes, and it just didn't work for me. I do want to say really quickly that Ava DuVernay has an eye for framing up a shot. Whew. There are some breathtaking shots in this movie. And while I have an issue with the CG that I'll get to later, you can clearly tell that she's talented. I just don't know if this one got away from her or if what everyone is saying about the book being unfilmable truly is true. This just wasn't her best work. Now, as I was saying, I did have some issues with the CG, and I guess my issues with the CG aren't that the CG is bad, because actually it's quite good. My issues with the CG, I think, are mostly the reactions to it. Everyone is saying that this is like a visual wonder. It's a visual masterpiece. It's breathtaking and striking, and I found it to be boring and average. The CG is good, but the CG is good in a lot of movies nowadays. This movie isn't more visually striking than Life of Pi. It's not any more technologically advanced than Jungle Book. I didn't see anything in here that I haven't seen already, and frankly, it just felt like a pretty generic adventure world at some points, and at other points, particularly towards the third act, the CG was actually quite ugly. The design of the places and the set pieces that they were in just looked ugly, and I didn't want to look at them anymore. I mean, right towards the end of the film, there is some very interesting shots and some CG components in which Storm Reid will be floating through something that I found to be interesting and beautiful then, but this isn't that interesting visually to me. It's basically the same way I felt about Doctor Strange, where it just kind of felt like they were doing these visuals to do the visuals, and it didn't actually need to be done. I think my main issue with the visuals in this movie is that they just sort of happen. There's no connective tissue, and that's sort of the biggest problem with A Wrinkle in Time, is that it doesn't really have a narrative or much thereof. And that's not aided at all by the fact that there's no antagonist for 70% of this movie. It just sort of happens, and events occur, and things are moving on from one place to another place, and hey, look at this fantastic, cool looking place, and oh hey, this is fun, and oh look, Zach Galifianakis. But nothing is really happening, and it's just a lot of talking. It's not very fun. And that's what I wanted from this. I realized it's a kid's movie and that there is a message, and I think the message is a little muddled. The message is there, And I just wanted a fun ride, and it's not. It's frankly really boring. I was very bored the whole time, and I just wanted it to end. At the end of the day, I didn't feel any connection to any of the characters, and it's hard to watch an adventure when I don't really care about what's happening to the characters. I don't think this movie's very good. I'm going to give A Wrinkle in Time a 3 out of 10. I'm sorry, A Wrinkle in Time is just not very good, but please, I beg you, don't let one bad movie influence the way that you hire for projects. Please. If Michael Bay can still have a career, then Ava DuVernay will definitely still have one. Anyway, thank you for watching. Make sure to come back here for all of our amazing content and movie reviews. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at I am Mourar. Follow RAZZLE on Twitter at RAZZLE Review. And I'll catch you here next time.